Hey guys, welcome to the channel. You guys requested for this top, so I'm going to show you how I made it. This combat crop top. So let's get right into it, guys. First, you get your pattern paper. Fold the edge by 2 inches from the top to bottom. Fold it in. Then you can mark half of an inch at the top part. Then you can start placing your measurement after the half inch. First things first, mark your shoulder point. Mine is 8 inches. So from that shoulder point, I'm going to come down by 2.5 inches. Mark that point, then slant it from that neckline down to the shoulder point you marked on the slanted form. So now place your tape on that slanty line and mark the same shoulder measurement. Mine is 8 inches, so I'm going to mark same 8 right here. So now from that point, to get the depth of your armhole, divide your round bust measurement by 6, add 1.5 inches, whatever you get, minus 1 inches from it. After I did that, what I got was 7 inches, so I'm going to rule a straight line, marking that 7 inches vertically, just as you can see, guys. So once I was done with that, I'm going to use my tape to cross check the measurement to see if it's accurate. So now I'm going to place my tape. I'll mark that 7 inches on that line. After I place then I'm going to place my tape horizontally to place my round bust measurement. To get your bust measurement, do your round bust divided by 4, then you can add 3 or 4 inches. This is dependent on how wide you want the shirt to be. I want mine to be boxy, so I added 4 inches. So now I'm going to connect the line horizontally like this, matching that shoulder depth. So now from that point, whatever I have on my round bust measurement divided by 4, that I added that 4 inches, I'm going to be placing same measurement on the lower part. But before then, I'm going to go slanty by 1 inch. That way I'm going to get my armhole curve, just as you see me doing. At the diagonal points, mark 1 inch, then you can use your curve rule to connect the curve, just like you see me doing. Once I was done with that, the measurement I had on the horizontal part of the bust, I'm going to be replacing same measurements on the lower part. So after doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect it with a straight line, just like this. Now that we're done with that, the next step will be to go up by ½ inch on the slanty shoulder line. Make sure to mark ½ inch from one edge down to the other edge. Once you're done marking that ½ inch, connect it with your ruler just like this. So now it's time for us to cut out the front pattern. Remember that your front paper, or when you're cutting it on your fabric, you're going to be cutting 2 for the front and then a single piece for the back. So please don't forget. It's because I'm making use of a pattern paper, that's why I'm just cutting 1 in order for me not to waste my pattern paper. So I'm going to be cutting just 1, but once I'm cutting it on the fabric, I'll cut 2 pieces for the front and then 1 for the back. So I'm going to label it as front, just as you see me do. So now get a fresh pattern paper, place your front pattern on it, your front pattern paper. Then on the shoulder points, make sure you go up by 2.5 inches on the back pattern paper. Make sure you go up by 2.5 at the shoulder point, just as you see me doing. Mark your 2.5 inches from one point down to the other point, just like this. Make sure to pin the pattern paper so it doesn't move. Once I was done with that, so I'm going to use my ruler to connect the lines together just like this. Make sure to do this carefully, guys, and don't forget to pin your pattern paper so you don't make mistakes while rolling the lines. After I was done with that, so I'm going to connect the on the armhole point. I'm going to connect the line slanty towards the 2.5 inches I added upward on the back pattern paper. Now we're going to cut out the part that we don't need. Make sure to cut it out like this. If you know this is your first time on the channel, guys, please do well to hit on that red subscribe button, like this video and comment below. So now you fold in the 2.5 inches to meet that 1/2 inch on the upper part of the front pattern paper, just like this. Make sure to fold it in to lap on that 1/2 inches, on that 1/2 inch on the front pattern paper, guys. So after I folded it like this, I'm going to cut out the sides. Cut out the part that is not needed on the lower part and the edge. So we are left with just the front and the back pattern paper. Make sure when you're cutting your armhole, you don't make it too deep or too wide. So now that we're done cutting the parts that we don't need, the next thing now will be to get the width and the depth of the front neckline. So now the width, I'm going to be marking 2.5 inches. For the width, I'm going to be adding 2.5 inches on the width for the front pattern paper. You can see I'm going to mark 2.5 inches for the width, and then for the depth I'm going to be marking 3 inches, just as you see. Then I'm going to be connecting it with the curve. Just watch this part carefully. This part is very, very important, guys. You can use your free hand or you can use your curve ruler. So now on the back part, I'm going to connect the line slanty towards the back pattern paper, just like this. Just watch how I did this. So while cutting, make sure to cut only the front pattern paper for the depth, which is 3 inches, and the width, which is 2.5 inches. Cut just that part for the front pattern paper, and then for the back pattern paper, the part we extended, that's only where we are going to cut out. Watch how I'm cutting it, so you don't make the back neckline too deep. The back neckline is not supposed to be too deep. So now we are left with the front and the back neckline. You can see how the back neckline is looking. The front neckline is deep, the back is kind of shallow. So we're done with that. Now I use my pattern paper to cut 2 front fabric and then a single piece for the back, just as you can see. And then also I cut out a flap in form of a facing for the neckline for the back, just as you see it. You know how combat outfit used to have that design on the back, so that's what that facing is for. So now I ironed the front part, folding in that 2 inches, just as we agreed earlier on. So you can see how the front fabrics are looking. Everything is looking all neat and smooth. So I'm going to take it to my machine and sew down those 2 inches that we folded in. So now for the back, I'm going to fold in the lower part and then stitch it down, leaving the upper parts open. So now you're seeing how it's looking. I stitched down the lower part. Once I was done with that, I also stitched down the front part. That's the part where the buttons are going to be sitting for the 2 front fabrics, just as you can see. So once you're done with that, The next thing will be to fix the pockets on the front fabric. I made use of a crepe material for this combat crop top. So now for the pocket, the width is going to be 9 inches and then the depth is going to be 8.5 inches. Make sure you cut 2 pieces for this because you're going to be having 2 front pockets. So now for the front pocket, I stitch in 1 inch. You can see how it's looking. So now I'm going to take it to my ironing board and iron it flat. I'll iron it flat like this. Once I'm done with that, I'll fold all the edges. Now you can see the back part of the fabric how it's looking. After I stitched down the lower part, I double stitched it. Now we're going to be placing the front fabric on the back one. So I stitched down the pocket on the front pattern paper. I stitched down the pockets on the front fabric for the 2 parts of the front, and I designed it with a white thread by stitching it twice on the edges and as well as on the lower part. You can see how the pocket is looking very neat. So now you can see that the back fabric is higher than the front by 2.5 inches. What we're going to do now, we'll place right side facing each other. We're going to use 1/2 inch to stitch down the shoulder points, but we're not going to be stitching it the regular way. We're going to conceal the edges of the stitch. So watch this part carefully so you can understand what I'm about to do, guys. This is very crucial. Remember the facing we added for the back pattern? That's what we're going to be using to turn the stitches so you don't see the rough edges. So I'm going to flip the facing backwards and stitch it together. That way it's going to hide in the rough edges. You can see how I did it. We're going to do the same thing for the left and on the right hand side. If you don't understand this part, please play it, pause and play until you get it. Watch this part again. I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to flip the facing backwards just like this. I'm going to flip it backwards, arrange it to the other edge, take it to my machine and stitch it down. Then I'll bring it back. You can see how it's looking very neat. The rough edges is concealed inward, so you can see both on the wrong and on the right hand side there is no trace of roughness. So once you're done with that shoulder part, the next thing will be to join the sides. But before then, make sure to design the shoulder point by double stitching with any color of thread that you want to do it so it can relax properly. So now I'm going to measure around the neckline so I'll be able to cut my collar. After I measure around the neckline, what I had was about 16.5 inches or 17 inches. I got 17 inches when I was done to cut our collar. So now mark 17 inches on your pattern paper. Find the midpoint, or 16 inches. Find the midpoint. The midpoint is 8 inches off. So you go up by 1 inch from that midpoint. After you mark that, make a point. Now extend the line a bit. From that midpoint that you mark, go outward by 1 inch. Mark that point. Then draw a straight line from there. Connect the 2 points together So now from that line, 1 inch you went upward, go up by 2.5 inches, mark the point, just leave that point there. Now what we're going to be doing is that we'll be connecting from that 1 inch that we went upward towards that 2.5 inch. We'll connect the lines in a slanty way, just like this. So now on the left hand part of our pattern paper, we'll go in by 1 inch again. Then we'll connect the line with a straight line, just as you see me doing. So now on the left hand part, we're going to go up by 2 inches this time around, not 2.5, 2 inches. Now we're going to be connecting from that 2.5 inches on the right hand side towards the left that we have 2 inches. Make sure to connect it well. Now that we're having this, that 1 inch point you have from the very first instant, we're going to make a slight curve at the edge, just like this, just like you see me doing like this, just a little bit, curve it a little bit. Once you're done with that, make sure to rule all lines to be straight. Then you use your scissors to cut from that curvy point. This way you cut out your collar. Guys, if you don't understand what's happening here, please watch this carefully. Make sure to pause and play until you get it. So now our collar is ready. I'm going to be using this pattern paper to cut out on the fabric. We're going to be cutting 2 pieces, and make sure to cut this on fold once you're cutting it on your fabric. I made use of a crepe fabric for this combat crop top or combat crop shirt. So after I cut out the collar, now we're going to be cutting out our sleeve. The length of my sleeve is about 12 inches and the width is going to be 11 inches or 12. To cut out your sleeve, you're going to be going in by mark 4 inches. Then from that 4 inches point, go down by 5 inches. Then you connect from that slanty edge to that 5 inches mark that you made. Then slant it towards where the width of your armhole is going to stop, which is the 12 inches where mine stop. If your armhole is 10 inches, you can stop where the 10 inches is going to be. So you can see how the depth of the armhole is looking like. Now we're going to be inserting the width. So I'm going to mark my mid arm, which is 8.5 inches. So I'm going to mark that point here. Then around the mid arm, I'm going to be marking 7 inches. So I'll connect the sleeve just like this, connecting each point together. So now my sleeve is going to have like 2 inches fold. I'm going to add that point. You can see the length of the sleeve is 10 inches. To make it 12, I'm going to be adding about 1 inches extra. So now I'm going to cut out my sleeve. In order for the edge of your sleeve to fold properly, you're going to go out by 1/2 inches on the lower part of the fold. So when you're using your hemming gum to fold it, to stay in place. Then I notch the center point of the armhole. The fold for my sleeve is going to be 2 inches, while the actual length of the fabric is 10 inches. So I'm just rolling out the line so I will know when I want to sew. Then I'm going to notch out that point so it will be easier for me to just locate it. So now we're done cutting the sleeve. You can see how it's looking. Once I was done with that, I cut out my collar. Mind you, when you're cutting your collar, make sure it's on fold. And we're cutting 2 pieces. So I notched the center point of the collar just like this. And I'm going to be infusing an ST on one part of the collar. Then I'll sew the edges with half of an inch, just as you see me doing. So I'll notch each curved edges. So when I'm turning it inside out, it's going to relax properly. So for those sharp edges on the wrong side, I'm going to cut out the sharp edges so it will have a sharp edge on the inner part of the right side. You can see I'm cutting out those sharp points. So once I turned it inside out, you can see that the collar is having a very sharp edge. I'll take it to my ironing board and iron it flat. Make sure to notch all those curved edges so that it will relax once you turn it on the right side. Once I was done with that, you can see how the collar is looking. If today is your first time on the channel and you've not subscribed to the channel, guys, please do well to hit on that red subscribe button, comment combat crop top on the comment section below, and do well to share with your friends and family so they can learn as well. What we're going to be doing is that we're going to be placing each notch point. Make sure to notch on the main fabric, notch the center point so you can match the center point of the collar you notch to the center point of the fabric. Then you pin it down. Then you place side to side, pin them together so it will be easier for you when you're stitching it on your machine. Then pin down the other edge to the other edge. Then you're going to be using half of an inch to sew it round, just like this. Once you are done with sewing one part, this is how it's looking. Now we're going to be covering the other parts, the rough edges, with the other part of the collar, just like this. When you're sewing this, make sure the place the ST is, that's where you're going to be using to cover it. So once I was done with that, this is how it's looking. It's looking very neat, fine, and beautiful. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like this video, comment combat crop top in the comment section, like, share with your friends. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you guys so much for coming. You guys are my real MVPs and I love you guys so much. Next week I'm going to be uploading the combat trouser. If you like to see that, then stay glued to your phone. Until I come your way next week, guys, be amazing, always do awesome things. I almost forgot, guys. So for the cover of the pockets, I use the width of about 9 inches and then the depth is about 4.5 inches. So I folded the edge. I used 2 pieces. I turned it inside out, folded the edge and stitched it down. And after I was done with the pocket, this is the final result, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.